Hey everyone, Nick here with Whole Latte Love. I've got Zach with me.
Hello everyone again.
And we're back with the JURA X10. So, I mean, I am just very excited about this machine. I'm just going to say the X8 is a JURA machine that I am very familiar with. Zach, you are fairly familiar with as well.
Yes, I am. Yeah, we've done a actually install together.
We did an install, I think a service call as well.
Yeah.
But this is one of JURA's workplace machines and one of very few super autos that actually can be connected to a water line.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is a great thing. It's not very common within super autos. No. So it's a great feature that JURA can do.
Well, and I mean, I was a little heartbroken when the original X8 was announced as being discontinued, but elated at the same time to find that it had simply evolved into the X10. And so 10's the number, right? So JURA's Z10, which we saw earlier today, that was the first machine introduced by JURA that featured the cold brew technology. We later saw the Giga 6 become the Giga 10, also featuring cold brew, and now the X8 has become the X10 as well. So 10's the number for JURA when it comes to cold brew. So let's probably take a closer look at our X10 here.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So Mark, if you want to get us up here to the screen, and I'll give you a sec to do that, we'll cover basically everything about this machine, but we'll start with navigation. So this machine actually is a little tidier than some JURA machines, just in terms of how you access different features and functions. But if you're familiar with some of JURA's other models, or even some of Gajo's espresso machines, very, very basic interface here. So we have 4 drinks according to the top 4 buttons here, top left and top right. And then on the bottom, you'll see on bottom left, we can do pre-selection, which lets us make some on-demand customizations of drinks. And then we can also cycle through our drink menus by pushing, and you'll see which screen we're on. So in total, we have 12 drinks. So starting from left to right, we have espresso, flat white, lungo, which is a long espresso, latte macchiato, coffee cortado, Americano, cappuccino, cafe latte, hot water, milk, and milk foam. So really cool things about this. So first of all, this is what JURA refers to as a workplace machine, meaning that its capacities, both in terms of water and dregs, meaning spent pucks, and beans, are much higher than you would commonly expect. So off the top of my head, I don't know the exact numbers, but I believe you can fit roughly an entire pound of coffee in that bean hopper, and there are several liters that can fit in the reservoir. If you notice, there is a key that's used actually to unlock and lock the hopper here to allow people access to it. So these sorts of machines are perfect for an environment like a cafeteria, or maybe if you have a clubhouse or a kitchen. So Zach and I have personal experience with these machines because close to where Whole Latte Love is located, there's actually a luxury apartment complex who purchased a machine from us, and they use it in their clubhouse for all of their residents. And I think, Zach, how many drinks had they made in a year? It was some crazy number, like 20,000?
Yep, 20,000. So with no real issues whatsoever, just regular maintenance throughout that. So they have everyone coming through, making all their different kinds of varieties of drinks. They each one of the residents kind of have their own different kind of drink that they've really dialed in for themselves, including the workers as well. And they do actually
keep
keep
that.
Maybe
it was 2 years now that I think about it.
Yeah,
but
it was 2 years.
It was a wild number. But yeah, all the maintenance staff, all the office staff who work there, and all the residents. So this is a machine that can seriously keep up with that kind of use, right? So it is a bit pricier. This is $4,000 you're looking at, and then the water line kit is extra. But if you're somebody who you own an apartment complex like that, or you have, you're a club or maybe a high-end salon, something like that, and you want something that's very self-serviceable by your clientele, this is a perfect option for that, because not only can this machine make an array of very popular drinks, you have the ability to see the milk automatically switch from just hot milk to milk foam. You have cold brew, but also this is one of a few JURA machines that actually can make 2 milk drinks at a time using its dual milk spouts, which is really, really cool.
Oh yeah.
So let's take a quick peek, right? So with JURA, if you're familiar, and if not, you're about to find out, drinks are brewed simply by pushing the corresponding button for them. And if you want to program a drink, you simply press and hold that button instead. We can reposition the product, or we can go into our settings. So for this beverage in particular, we can change coffee strength. So that's 10 options. This JURA has a dosing range, meaning the amount of ground coffee that it uses per shot, of 5 to 16 grams, okay?
And 16 grams, that's pretty similar to what you would get from a like semi-auto sort of style extraction.
Yeah, the classic, earlier we were pulling 16 gram shots on it, just as an example.
Yeah, so you'll have the same kind of caffeine levels, I would say, on those stronger strength sizes.
Going back through though, we've got volume, so that's the amount of liquid. So in this case it's a milk drink, so that's for our espresso. Temperature, low, medium, and high. Amount of milk foam, so JURA does designate between milk and milk foam, being just hot liquid milk that goes below the crema, and then foam that floats on top of it. It's measured in seconds. That's a JURA preference. It's to make sure that you get the amount of milk measured in time, so that if there's variations in volume between what it might say on the screen and what you get in your cup, due to milk, that they account for that just by calling it time instead. You can do pre-selection, meaning you can do a cold brew, or you can do an extra shot. So the JURA milk beverages can have extra shots ground into them.
I'm personally an extra shot sort of person, so.
And you can do milk temperature and milk foam temperature, so you have low, medium, and high for those. So that's our flat white, just as an example. And to brew a coffee, it's as simple as simply placing our cup underneath our spouts and then pressing, and we're gonna see that drink be made in moments flat. So there's gonna be a conical steel burr grinder in this machine that's going to grind coffee fresh for every brew. What's happening right now, the JURAs use a feature called intelligent preheating. They make sure that the thermoblock is at the correct temperature before brewing. So if it's taking a little bit of extra time, that's because the machine is guaranteeing that all of your parameters are correct in terms of brewing your espresso beverage. And there we go. You can make changes on the fly to the amount of coffee that you want to have ground. And I don't know if you just heard too, that sound profile for the tension being relieved on the burrs, originally introduced in the J8 Twin, now featured on the X8 that is designed to sound like a Formula One race car. Pulse extraction process, hearing that right now, that's that kind of jackhammer sounding, almost pulsing. That's used when you're making shorter beverages to produce extra crema. Right there, our espresso's done, and I am being told to enjoy, which of course I will. And that's it really, right? Like that's the beauty of super autos, but of a machine like this one too, because that made me my drink in under a minute. And now let's multiply that by, however many users you might need who are going to use this machine, right?
Yeah, with like professional quality results each time too. It's really paying attention to both the temperature to ensure that's correct, and we kind of know that from other things we do here with semis, that temperature is really important, and even down to the way that it actually extracts and produces that crema. It's a very enjoyable cup of coffee.
Oh, that's right. So that's just the espresso. So obviously there's a lot to cover here, and I kind of want to go over how this machine works, right? So first and foremost, at the top is where our bean hopper is. On the side, on the left, is where our water reservoir is. Now, you may have noticed that, so here we go. Up here again, Mark's show me, thank you. There's not an option for pre-ground coffee in this machine, so that's one thing to keep in mind. And in the back here, that's where you can load in cleaning tablets. So close that up, but that's right there in the back. Now, if you want to go into the programming menu for this machine, it's actually very simple, right? So if you were to look at the screen again, you have one button that you use to rotate between your beverage menus, and you have a button for pre-selection, and this pre-selection allows you to overwrite an existing choice that you made. By pressing and holding that button, it brings you into your programming menu. So this is called the JURA Cockpit, where you can review the different recommended procedures, as well as machine's general settings, such as having it switch off after a certain amount of time, whether or not you want to name the product so you can see the name visible on the display, your water hardness, which you'd program at the start, the version that you're on, emptying the system. You can lock the machine as well. Do you want to make one-off settings? And we can go into our product settings available. Do we want to be able to make adjustments to them, yes or no? So really, it's a great machine for somebody who's going to be, like I said, using it in an area where you have multiple people who are non-employees who are interacting with it, right? Because there's a lot that you can do.
Yeah, and there's multiple different ways that you can lock it out too, both internally, like you just showed, and the key that you have to use to get to both the water and the coffee. So having it wide open is totally fine, really, when it comes to people possibly messing around with the machine. In any case.
Let's see, Zach. Let's say we want to make our coffees for each other here.
Which I could use a coffee right now. I think we've been going on for a good 6 hours now of live streams today.
So I don't know if you guys noticed that, but literally all I had to do was press the coffee button twice. So that's going to make whatever drink I just selected 2 times rather than 1 time. Now, that's 4 ounces. We can adjust on the fly. Let's go up to 6 ounces. We're Americans. We need a lot more coffee than 4.
So more like an Americano.
Well, funny that you say that, but there actually are options on certain JURA machines for Americanos, and those use bypass water to add to the beverage rather than just running through. So what JURA calls a coffee is similar to what JURA calls a lungo. They are reducing the strength in order for you to actually enjoy the beverage with a lighter body, let's say.
And that's almost like what is desired within like our SCA standards of these things too, of like how we're actually using hot water and espresso to make an Americano. Same sort of thing.
And so just like on the Gajah machines as well, since we did it ×2, it's actually going to grind and brew twice. And we could make changes again. You can adjust your coffee strength as well, but that grinder goes quick. You don't have a lot of time to make that adjustment because the machine is just going very efficiently. That's the use of conical. JURA, I think, is one of the few companies that uses conical steel. And typically, when you've got smaller burrs, conical can go a little bit faster than if you're using flat. And if we wanted to stop right in the middle, you can just press X. So I'd say that looks to be about enough coffee for both of us.
Yeah.
And we can click Save now if we want. And it saved the setting that we just programmed.
Especially if we really enjoy it, right?
That's right. Well, cheers, Zach.
Cheers.
We've got just a few more streams to go. These are beautiful glasses, but they are also durable enough for us to toast. But
beautiful.
Very beautiful. And I may want to make a few changes, but really, again, it's that simple. Now, you may wonder how this machine is going to produce milk beverages. And that's where this device here, this is called the JURA Cool Control, comes in play. So the Cool Control, this is a refrigerated milk unit. And what that does is you fill it with milk, plug it into the wall, and it keeps it cold. Now, there's a pickup tube that runs from our milk frothing assembly here down into our refrigerator. So there's the milk on the inside, in case you're wondering. And on the more modern cool controls, because JURA anticipates the use of these products for a more kind of like self-serve environment, you can also use the locking key to lock so that people who are just wandering around the cafeteria, let's say, can't take this lid off. So if you're looking for a higher capacity product that can help you with that sort of vending almost, or supply of drinks, you found it, right? Now, Zach, let's show off just a little bit here, okay?
All right. Okay.
I'm gonna leave it to you because you are a barista.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you program a drink. So you did talk about the Americano, right?
Yeah.
And we can show that off in a sec because I do want to show that this Americano is actually different from what you were just describing here. But let's say you want to make a cafe latte, right? You make a good latte, right?
I would say that I could make a good latte, a couple 100,000 in my days.
So if we press and hold on cafe latte,
all right.
I'm going to bring you in and have you program this and try to make it taste exactly the way that you want.
All right, so I think I'm going to go actually increase my coffee strength all the way, especially with a size like this. I feel like I want a nice, good body that's going to blend well with my milk. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save.
So that's that 16 gram.
Yep. Do I need to save or continue on?
You could save or you could continue on, yeah.
Let's go ahead and continue on. For volume, I'm definitely going to increase this a little bit. So let's go ahead and do like a nice 6 ounce.
That's a 6 ounce coffee you're doing?
Oh, 6 ounce. Okay, so this does not include...
volume, actually, what we're doing right now, Zach, is we're programming our coffee that we're dispensing, the amount of liquid that's going to be pushed through our ground puck, right? You'll see milk is going to be measured in time, as I was mentioning.
Gotcha. So I'm going to do about 2 ounces.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep this as traditional as possible. So I'm going to do that next.
Temperature.
Temperature.
Low, medium, and high.
I'm going to go ahead and do a normal. We have a darker roast in here, so I think I'm going to keep it right around normal with that.
I think the espresso Italiano. So yeah, now just to be clear, amount of milk, that's just hot milk, right? So similar to the Z10 that we looked at the other day, this machine, JURA, uses what they call automatic milk switchover, and you can remove the front assembly here, but basically inside our frothing assembly, Mark, if you want to go slightly down and then come right back to the front here, I'll show off what I'm talking about. There's a little arm, I've seen it happen, that comes down. So this is our milk intake, right? Right about here, there's a little spot that gets pinched, and it's by pinching that spot that will actually change the texture of the milk that's being produced, right? That happens automatically. So on some JURAs, you have to manually change it. On others, like this X10, you don't. And that's how you can remove that frothing assembly if you wanted to clean this machine as well. So this is how much milk you want, okay?
Perfect. So I think I'm going to stick with maybe what they were saying, 10 seconds kind of stock.
Okay.
And then that next one, I wanted to do like 2 seconds of foam or something.
So barely any foam then.
Yeah, maybe a light amount of foam.
Light amount of foam?
Let's go ahead and go 3 seconds there. So just a little bit of foam there.
So you could do cold brew here, but we're going to hold off on cold brew. We're just doing milk right now. We're going to get to cold brew, but you can do a cold latte as well. And now you have your milk temperature and you have your milk foam temperature as well.
Gotcha. So I'm going to do this as low, actually.
Interesting.
So I want to kind of drink this right away.
All right.
So not too hot. I'm just going to go low. And then that milk foam temperature, I think that I want that just about normal.
Just about normal? All right.
So I'll go ahead and hit save there.
Yep. And now all you got to do is press X. And if you want to brew,
let's go ahead and
press
brew it.
Cafe Latte.
All right, so it goes all the way to my strongest strength there.
That's where you programmed it, that 10 bean strength. Exactly.
All the caffeine that I can get right now.
Yeah, I was going to say. And so we're starting obviously just with our espresso.
And this is going to be a pretty short shot, so something similar to what we would get into a normale with 2 ounces or so.
2 ounces, 16 grams.
Perfect. I mean, already looks absolutely gorgeous with that crema. Now it's getting into
It's heating up, yeah. So this machine uses a thermo block, as all super autos do. And we're going to start with milk. And there we go.
Beautiful.
And that's that hot milk. And I feel like we may have gone a little too short. This cup's going to be a touch tall.
That's okay. It's almost cortado.
And then you could hear the sound profile change. Finish up with milk foam. Automatic milk switchover, as I have said. So,
and that's so fast, too.
That's very fast, yes.
Wonderful. Well, I would almost say that this is more towards what I would define as a cortado. So maybe I should kind of save these numbers for my cortado setting a little bit later. In my latte, maybe I would increase the time of milk a little bit, or even throw in an extra shot right now. But I'm going to go ahead and give this a try. Nice and sippable immediately. I kind of like that low temp on the milk. It's still hot, so it's not brewing cold whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's still definitely pretty hot to the touch. I would say this is around 135 or so, if I was to give my professional opinion.
So Mark, do we want to go up close again, because I want to show something that just happened too. So we made a milk drink, and now we have an additional icon here in our navigation. And so if we go through, that's telling us in the red, you can't navigate there, but if you press and hold, that now we want to clean the milk system. So the JURA cockpit represents itself on that front display by showing you in the nav, hey, there's something that needs your attention. So that's something about JURA's machines I think that actually has always impressed me. Is just sort of the new ease of use for some of the menu navigation. But that's just a cold brew, or latte. Let's take a look at the Americano, though, because I know we talked a little bit about that.
Perfect.
But the Americano, these machines have a secondary spout, and it's going to just fill that drink with water. So you're going to have the first half of the shot, which is going to be the espresso, right? And then we're going to add that water. So do we have any questions from anybody out there in the audience? Otherwise, we're just going to keep going here. But, you know, we will have a full review of this machine eventually, but
this is kind of your first look, you know?
This is
and,
kind of
it's all the new features.
Right. Exactly.
And look at that Americano. It's gorgeous.
That's right. So we're just brewing.
And this is kind of our basic Americano settings that we have.
And then we have what they call bypass water, which immediately starts. And so it did 3 ounces of coffee, 2 ounces of water.
Just immediately clear, too.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Well, because it's coming out of a different set of spouts. So it's not using the same spouts for the coffee as it does for the Americano.
Perfect. So you can interchange between coffee and maybe getting water for tea pretty easily then, if we just want some plain hot water, right?
You can, yes. So hot water is obviously an option on here. And you can simply program that as well. You can do volume and temperature. And so you could program a slightly lower temperature, let's say if you wanted to make like a green tea, or you could program a hotter temperature if you wanted to do black tea, for instance. But
and one thing that we did previously to this too is dial in that hot water specifically for a London fog too.
That's true. And so when we were over at the clubhouse, they had a lot of different teas. So they had a nice little coffee station. And Zach and I, we went in and we played with stuff. And then after a week or two, I contacted the management and I said, what are people saying anything about the coffee? They're like, oh, they're saying it tastes better.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things with all super automatics that you have a lot of variables that you can adjust. And I think sometimes people overlook that you really can optimize for the different kinds of drinks that you like.
Yeah, kind of like how you dial in on more traditional espresso machines. There's a way you can really dial in on your Jura to make it exactly how you like your coffee. If you like it towards the lighter side, or you're specifically using lighter style coffees, or you like it really strong, bold, and short with darker style coffees and Americanos, really dialing in that Americano-based drink or any of your espressos exactly how you like it. Like a lot of light roasts that I actually push more towards a lungo side. I push it a little bit further, so it starts getting into more of those floral nuances of things, and maybe less on that strength as well.
Yeah, so let's show off that cold brew. So we do have a question from Dan B. For those with lactose intolerance, is there a setting for almond milk which reacts differently when trying to create a rich foam for your latte? So that's a good question, and the answer is there's not a different setting for it, but like I said, the machine does have milk foam and hot milk. So you can increase the duration of time to produce more foam and then adjust, say, maybe the duration of hot milk. So if you wanted a better proportion to add more foam, for example, you'd program the drink to use much more milk foam, and then there might still be a little bit of separation to produce that milk. But that's why Jura uses time, because based on the type of milk that you're using, you can play around with that a little bit in order to get really the ideal result for you. So
you can finally get those extra foam oat lattes according to that.
We'll show off the pre-selection though. So if I press the pre-selection button, it gives me the option now to override a product settings. So I'm going to say I want cold brew, right? And that highlighted it in brown. And now I'm going to, if you look on the screen, all the drinks have snowflakes, meaning they're going to brew as cold. And I'll start my coffee. So obviously it's a nice little touch, but Jura puts a blue thermometer when it comes to their cold extraction, which is cool.
We're just kind of brewing over ice now.
Yeah.
So.
We're about to brew over ice, and you're going to kind of see and hear the difference with how Jura likes to use their cold brew feature here. So just keep your eye on that, Mark, because that's going to be something that's worth explaining in just a moment.
And it is nice and quiet. You might hear some movements within the machine. Not sure on how it actually picks up over the mic, but it's a nice quiet.
You get the initial infusion, and then now you see just that slow dripping. That's the cold extraction process. So what that means is that the grinder ground the coffee, we got an initial infusion of milk, And now the machine is actually using a much lower frequency pulse. The coffee is flowing through much more slowly, so that dripping is actually completely normal, and that's the cold extraction process. Very slow, you're going to get much more of that smoother, maltier flavor, and then on top of that, you'll see that the ice melt is much slower because you're not pouring as much hot coffee over it. And then we're going to be almost done. And that's on demand too, which is something that I think is just so cool, is basically you have that on demand. You don't have to wait. You don't have to do anything else special to make this drink. So it's about to be done, and we're going to taste it. I'm getting my caffeine quota. I'm getting that filled in the latter half of the day rather than earlier this morning. I think we said to John our max number of espressos. I think I told him like 2 at most per day. Brewed over ice though, nice double walled here. Give that a taste. It's very good.
Oh yeah.
That's exactly what I expected, to be honest with you. So let me just see if we've got any other questions. So one of the other things too though that's really great about this machine in particular is the fact that it does have the ability to produce 2 milk drinks simultaneously. So what do I mean by that? Now, on a lot of espresso machines, you can make a milk drink, yes. But this machine has 2 frothing systems, so you can actually do it ×2 of your milk drinks, just like you can with your coffee drinks, because with those dual spouts for your coffee, dual spouts for your milk, you're actually able to produce, say, 2 cappuccinos at once or 2 lattes at once, right?
Yeah, and that's pretty difficult to do on semi-autos. Definitely possible by milk sharing technically, but you need to be pretty quick in order to do so, or you're splitting shots. So this thing can actually work pretty darn fast unless you had multiple groups for an espresso machine. That could be the only thing similar. So within a commercial environment or an office space, I feel like that's perfect just to get some drinks out there.
So I don't see any more comments, but what we could do is just also demo cleaning the milk system, because I think that's something that's super useful and super easy. Zach, I'm going to go grab a milk caddy for a moment and then explain maybe a little bit why you would want your latte at a cooler temperature.
Yeah, so I am really picky about my latte temperatures. Specifically, certain flavor profiles within certain kinds of coffees can only be identified through cooler temperatures. The hotter your coffee as it is, the harder it is for us to really grasp any like sweeter or particular flavor notes within that. Particularly with milk in general too. I chose that at a lower temperature because a lot of the sweetness can actually come from that milk at a lower temperature. Specifically around 125 to 140 is actually when your milk is actually producing some things that are going to trick you into thinking that it's kind of sugary at that point and sweet. So I stay away from that hot side, but nothing wrong if you do prefer extra hot lattes. I feel like they generally do taste a little less sweet.
Sure.
So.
But if you're taking them to go, that's obviously something where maybe you do want a little bit of that extra heat. So this is included with the machine. These milk cleaners will now come with any JURA espresso machine with a milk system. And basically we're going to do a little flip, which pre-weighs, dispense in.
Magical.
Press and hold. Well, we'll let Mark show the magic, so whenever you're ready, Mark. And we're just going to press the associated button that says clean the milk system. We good to, all right, we'll press that. And we're starting. So add milk system cleaner, I just did. And this is really cool. So I may be getting a little too excited about this, but
I'm kind of excited.
Basically, we put our activated cleaner in here. It's going to create a cleaning solution by adding water, and then it's going to use the suction from the steam. So this is positioned just so that back spout is actually just getting the back cartridge here, and then it's going to siphon that milk foam cleaning solution out and then dispense it back into the other portion of that tray there.
It's some extremely smart spring cleaning there.
Yeah. Well, I think, it's as close as you can get to having the machine clean itself.
Yeah.
So unless it was loaded up with some of those, little cleaning tablets.
Yeah, and if you have this in a large office environment, this is easy enough to kind of teach anyone too. So you don't yourself have to be around to necessarily clean this. I feel like the instructions of how you do this, it's pretty clear and straightforward how to go about this, especially with that pre-dosed amount that you get from the cleaning tablets as well.
So just to cover a couple other things too, this machine does come pre-equipped with Jura's Wi-Fi Connect, meaning that it can be connected to the app that Jura has, Jura Operating Experience. You can use that to program additional drink settings on just your phone rather than on the machine, and you can use it to perform maintenance, to order different products, etc. And so we're about to see just the cycle begin. And then I think, Zach, maybe we cap things off just by showing off, where you would plumb this machine in, because I'm sure a lot of people are curious about that. I'll show how to do that, and if we have any other questions, we'll answer those. Otherwise, I think we'll wrap and then get ready for Vitamin.
Yeah, some wood accessories. Bunch of goodies coming up. So, all right. So I think with that, typically I'd want to plumb this machine in a large environment that you don't want anyone really getting into the top of this machine or worrying about it running out of water. Say you need to be away from the machine, or there's not someone specifically working on the machine, but a lot of maybe random people or customers or employees coming up to the machine.
Yeah, exactly. And especially once you have that waterline kit installed, you are not going to want to have people going in there and fussing with it, because it uses a float valve to determine the actual water level inside the tank, and that's what triggers. So there's kind of down the chain of this plumb kit an actual valve that receives signals from the tank and from the water level in the tank, and that permits water to flow in or not. So here we have this, everything's being rinsed. So our tube that we use actually to brew or to froth our milk from before is being cleaned. The spouts are being cleaned. Everything on here is being cleaned so that we can basically just be done. And that's gonna clear that message that we saw as well. So you initially will get that message in the Jura cockpit, accessing those maintenance functions from within the cockpit. That's how you clear them. So if you're not ready to use your cleaning solution right away and you just want to rinse everything, a little trick that I like to use is to simply take the tube, put it into a container with some hot water, and then run a milk beverage, because you can just dispense hot milk. That will suction all of that water through the tube, but the machine will then think that you made a milk drink and it will ask you to clean. So it's just something to keep in mind. But if you don't want to run the cleaning cycle every single time, now if you look, the red dot has disappeared from our display, so we're just back to our 3 white ones here and back to just our regular operating. So I'll tell you what, let's show you how to plumb real quick, and I'll just show you kind of the insides of this machine too. So I'll remove this, and we'll raise up our spouts here. Great clearance on this as well. Let's open up the front first, Zach, because I want to show a little bit of the inside on there too.
And we have quite the large dreg drawer. As previously promised, you can forget about, emptying our dreg drawer a little more often than your average home dreg drawer. It's pretty large here. And also this drip tray does go all the way back to the entire back side of this drip tray. So you can fit quite a lot of liquid in there, and we actually do have quite a lot of liquid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to bring us around to the front. This thing's kind of like a battleship almost, But just to explain a bit of the anatomy, so you can make 40 drinks before you have to empty this, and it's approximate based on the size of your pucks. The actual drip tray, marked perfect, I see your overhead that you're queuing up for us, has metal contacts that go in to detect how much water is actually inside the tray. So it's going to give you a real-time readout of that. Now, something also to keep in mind, this machine is designed to become a permanent fixture if you want it to. So if we remove this section here, and I'll show you. Give that to you, Zach.
I'll take
on the
care
front
of
the machine, I don't know if you can show right down here where I'm pointing, Mark, This is actually a drain line fitting, okay? You could punch a hole in here and attach a tube for the drain, and then the machine will basically be able to be plumbed out. It will be drained out automatically, okay? That's something that you would have to decide. If you were never going to move the machine, you could do that, but otherwise, just something to keep in mind. But 40 spent pucks before you really need to replace this thing.
And it is pretty easy to actually set up a drain line for something like that. I've seen it in multiple different ways where you just want it to go to maybe a larger bucket or something like that that you can refill a little bit easier. I would often suggest doing that every single day, but the best way is for it to just go to an open drain line. So those hoses can just go to an open piping and then off to whatever floor drain that you might have.
So we'll turn the machine around now. Oh, Cool Control's beeping at me. But, I mean, I need to turn it all the way around, but at least on its side so I can demonstrate. Because for those of you who are curious about the water tank and the water kit, how you would make that work, first of all, you want to make sure that your water tank is unlocked. Oh, wait, I just locked myself. Oh. Do the opposite of what I've just done. Hefty guy here. But on the back, this piece pushes down. And it comes clean off. Coming out, you have along the back here slots for where your water line and your power cord for your water kit will go up, and then the kit clips right into here. There's a vestigial piece right here of plastic that's designed to snap right out of the machine. So that just snaps clean off, and then you can fit your water line kit. This piece right up top just pops out, and then it pops back in. It uses fitted plastic, so probably don't do that a bunch, but popping it out once and then putting it back is typically going to be fine, but it comes right out like that. And then this piece, right here, this will snap clean off, and then that allows you to put the waterline kit right in there.
Again, this is something that you only have to do once when you're first looking to actually plumb this machine in. After that, you don't really have to concern yourself about this backside of the machine.
And really, then you just line up tabs, and then you lift back up. Once it pops in, it's nice and secure, and you can set the water tank back in.
And this is actually one key difference too between this new model as well, is that it's really a nice water tank. I love how you can actually see the water level.
That's right.
Within the side here. And again, we also have JURA's water filtration right inside.
So this uses the Smart Professional filters. They're just much bigger, and you can obviously see why. It's a much larger water tank, so they're physically just much larger. So not only do they fit in there, but they also have more capacity because they're so much bigger. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, this is the JURA X10, available now from Whole Latte Love. I'm Nick.
I'm Zach.
And we'll be seeing you soon.